All right, folks. So we have been talking about the fallout from the dropping of the Epstein case. So here's this. Wow, look at this one. This was probably my favorite response. Insurrection Barbie says, I'm not saying we need to move on from Epstein. I want to see accountability for everything. What I am saying is that Epstein is not the end all be all and a defining moment of the Trump presidency, like people on here are making it out to be. So you can sell you some more rage and make money. Are they like asking Grok to write these tweets for them now? I feel like these grifters are getting lazier and lazier. I'm seeing more and more typos. So you can sell you some more rage and make money. It's not the reason why I would support President Trump or not support President Trump. It's important, but so is 100,000 other things. Again, so are 100,000 other things. What I am saying is that perspective, nuance, patience, patience. The world's going to be fucking over by this time next year at this rate. And common sense need to make a comeback and fast.
Are you telling me
Wow.
Insurrection Barbie is a moron?
Yeah. Seems like
who
kind of
thunk it?
Insurrection bimbo, more like it.
Yeah.
You people really are shameless, says Devin Stack in response to that. And the Patriot voice nails it. Glad to see you are totally fine with the Trump administration covering for satanic pedos. I'll say the abbreviated version for YouTube. The one thing that millions of people were relying on Trump to hold accountable and get justice for the children. You people are spineless cowards. Exactly. Yeah.
See, this is where they're going to have a problem. This is where we're going to have a problem. Because when you're talking about true believers, you can't just brush them off like that.
No, you can't brush them off like that. First of all, at face value, it's kind of a big deal letting a giant sex trafficking ring off the hook, saying there was no client list when everybody knows there's a group of clients. Like,
they didn't even close the pizzeria.
Exactly. Like, there might not be a, no pun intended, PDF file of lists in order, but there's certainly a network of people. There was certainly a network of people that he was involved with, that he procured these guys. Like, we know that for essentially a fact. And so for them to deny the existence to that is kind of a big deal on its face. Now, I got into more of the philosophical significance of the Epstein issue in a different segment, so I won't go on that whole monologue again. You could check that out in a different clip. But the idea that MAGA and the conservative movement, generally speaking, is a bulwark against the Davos New World Order, childless cat lady, lizard person, godless hedonist who enjoys carefree sex with young women. Like, that conflict is central to the MAGA ethos. So on a more philosophical basis, this is really integral to keeping the political project on the rails. You take this out, it all falls apart. So no, this is not just one issue among many. That's like saying to a left-winger, well, Israel's just one issue among many, right? What did we learn? A lot of these people who are progressive, except for Palestine, you learn not only do they have no analysis of Israel-Palestine, it means they have no analysis of colonialism, no analysis of imperialism, no analysis of civil liberties, right? Everything falls apart if you don't get the Israel issue right, just like everything falls apart if you're on the wrong side of the Epstein issue. So no, this is not just one among many, but Insurrection Barbie, not the only Barbie on the block.
We did get the seed oils out of the lube.
Yeah, right, exactly, yes. She ain't the only Barbie on the block who's trying to make this sound as if, hey, it's one thing among many. Charlie Kirk tries to brush it aside by saying if Trump was on the Epstein list, why didn't Biden release that info to stop Trump being president? To which Blakely responds, because Democrats are on it too. This isn't hard. They're all on it. Why don't you explain why the director of the FBI's girlfriend worked for Israeli intelligence? Why don't you explain why Pam Bondi said the client list was on her desk, but now they're saying there is no list? Yes, this is apparently Kash Patel's girlfriend, background PragerU, and the IDF. Now, even if Trump is not on it, right? Let's just say he's not on it. Let's just take Charlie Kirk's point at face value. Is it not incumbent upon him to find out who is on it and prosecute them? Like, aren't you guys taking the fight to the satanic pedo cabal? Isn't that one of the main things that should have attracted people to MAGA. This is what we've heard for years and years and years. We heard this story about Biden and his daughter's diary and all this stuff that we're not really allowed to get too into here, but you know what we're talking about, right? So, the crusade against that was a rallying cry for your entire movement and has been for many, many years.
Globalist pedophiles.
Yeah, exactly. Right? All right, so Charlie Kirk went on to other things, right? Revert to culture war gives me renewed hope in humanity. Go Cubs. So apparently the Call Her Daddy podcaster, right, who they hate because she has casual sex just like Epstein did, oddly enough, although hers is legal. But they hate her. They hate her as much as they hate Epstein. She got booed singing Take Me Out to the Ball Game at Wrigley Field last night, and so that was huge news for Charlie Kirk's audience. He tried to get people really excited about that. He also tried to get people excited about the ICE budget, right? This is July 7th at 11:08 a.m. This is when everybody was tweeting about the Epstein thing. Here he is, America, for the increased ICE budgets. People are not buying it, though. People were not buying it. The Native American nationalist, Patriot, I like that. P-A-Y, Patriot, that's good. That's good. He's not the only person using that, but that's what we should call them, Patriots with a Y. Yep. Patriot influencers talking about anything but the Epstein pedo cover-up. I'm doing my part. So it wasn't fooling anybody. He came up with this huge tweet. We're not going to read all of it. Huge tweet. While people are distracted by the holidays and the big, beautiful bill, there is another serious push for immigration amnesty in Washington. Are they distracted by the holidays and the big, beautiful bill? Is that what they were distracted by yesterday, or was it the Epstein files? I think they were distracted with the Epstein files,
probably,
right?
Probably.
I don't think there were too many people who had leftover fireworks from Friday who were setting them off, and that's why they weren't worried about this. I think they were worried about something else that you seem reluctant to engage. You'll hear the same lines we've always heard: crops rotting in the field, economic collapse, global hunger, and more. Even though countless other countries harvest plenty of food without the need for imported serf labor. This is the one that got the most pushback. The conservative movement needs to focus more time, energy, and focus on how Islam is rapidly taking over the West.
Oh yeah, no, it's everywhere.
No, Islam. We're really under the thumb.
This culture full of pork-eating drunks. We're really in danger of falling to Islam.
Full of bacon-eating drunks who blow their hand off every 4th of July with makeshift fireworks. Yes, that's Sharia law, according to Charlie Kirk. Yes. In response to that, Fake Vivek says the topic of the day is literally how we're deceived about the Epstein client list, but this person keeps bringing up Islam. I gotta dig in. I said, you know what? Islam never invaded Epstein Island. And then you just have some run-of-the-mill, grift accounts. Did Trump put them in the limelight to show the world who they really are? Oh, yeah, that's the 8D chess. That's the 8D chess theory. Yeah, no, he really wanted to. No, that's what he really wanted to do. He really wanted to take Dan Bongino, who had probably the most successful video podcast in America, next to like Rogan or somebody like that. Like Bongino's live stream, it was the most successful live stream podcast in America, who devoted it entirely to Trump dick sucking. I mean, he's a Trump sycophant, dominating the live stream podcast space. Let's remove him from his role as that, and let's put him in a spot where we're going to expose him as a defender of Epstein, even though he's been critical of Epstein to a very large extent until we gave him this job. No, that's the 8D chess. Let's take a guy who talks about Epstein and defends Trump. Let's take him off the air so that he could now cover up the Epstein crimes. Yeah, that's a great idea.
I meant to do that.
Yeah, I meant to do that. All right, so Alex Jones apparently had a good puke and a good cry, and he got his shit together, and he went on the air, and he tweets this out at 3:47 p.m. yesterday.
Fucking kidding me.
Yes, Judge Joe Brown, who, oddly enough, Judge Joe Brown looks like an emaciated Alex Jones. He actually looks in this lighting Like Alex Jones in a
there's
Spanish
Alex
prison.
Jones after the thinner curse.
Yeah, right. Alex Jones after the thinner curse. Alex Jones at the Bizarro World Alligator Alcatraz if Kamala were president, right? This is what he would look like. Judge Joe Brown believes that Trump is using the Epstein files to blackmail the deep state to surrender. So apparently Alex Jones thought, you know what, fellas, let's go on Cameo and find someone who we can pay $200 to say this bullshit script, and let's see what they come up with. And so here is Judge Joe Brown on the developments.
Control. He didn't do it. They're shutting it down from everything I've seen. He is taking control of the FBI CIA blackmail file, and now I suddenly see this deep state more and more rolling over. People say, well, that's very immoral to do. The argument would be it's too damaging to bring this back and bring down the whole government. I'm not endorsing that, but the best approximation I've got is they get the files, they raid the FBI. The FBI raids the FBI 5 months ago. When they hid the files in New York, they make the guy resign that was covering it up, and Comey's daughter's still there. They then load the gun, cock the gun, point at the deep state's head, and now suddenly the NATO, everybody's kissing Trump's butt, and it looks like Trump is now in control of the file, and obviously they're not going to read in the FBI. It's the CIA and Ratcliffe doing it. The best approximation I've got, and it is speculation, but I got a lot of points, is that Trump has decided to just use the file against them. What do you think, Judge?
All right, now we Venmoed you the $250. Just say yes. That makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Oh wow,
yeah, it came through, right?
You can tell he really put work into that.
Well, if you notice,
like what crazy shit could I come up with that keeps my grift going? I don't have to alienate daddy. I can keep it inside parameters that won't get me kicked off X, because that's the only way I'm paying these families that I slandered.
Right.
Okay, how do I make all that come together? Oh, this is Trump's way of keeping the deep state under his thumb. That's the ticket.
Yeah. Now, if you remember when we showed you, this is in the other clip, but when you did the video from the car, he did kind of allude to this. And in this monologue that he just gave, he says, now, I don't endorse this. I don't think this is a good thing to do. So in other words, what he's trying to say here is this is just an error in judgment. They're fighting the deep state the wrong way. They're trying to use the Epstein files as leverage over the deep state to get policy wins over the deep state. I don't endorse that, because
and if
ultimately
they release it, then they won't have their leverage.
Then they won't have the leverage. So what he's saying is, look, they're using this to leverage policy concessions from the deep state, which is not moral, because ultimately we have to bring the pedos to justice. But he's saying this is what they're doing. And he kind of did reference that in the car. He says, it seems like Trump is running the whole thing. They have the information and they're using it against the deep state, but this is a disaster. So what he's basically saying now is, I mean, this is why this guy's a pro. He's a survivor. He's been on the air a long time.
I was just going to say.
He found the sweet spot. He's like, all right, this is an error in judgment by Donald Trump. He's using the files against the deep state. He means well, but it's still the wrong thing to do, because we're letting Epstein off the hook.
All right. What can I tell the fucking morons who don't realize that I'm doing performance art that'll keep them listening to my show? I got it.
Now, why he felt the need to bring a cameo entertainer who gets paid $50 to wish, goddaughters happy birthday. That's a joke. I don't know that Judge Joe Brown does that. Why he felt the need to bring somebody in to validate that, I don't know. But he did, and let's see if he plays ball.
I think you're right on point with that.
I guess he did. All right, he's right on point.
He needs a gig.
Right,
he needs a gig.
Yeah, exactly. I think you're right on point.
Just use the file against them. What do you think, Judge?
I think you're right on point with that. I think a great deal of what happened with Smith and Millargo when the FBI raided it some years ago, and this thing that clearly they had no standing to go against about him supposedly having classified confidential documents, when, as we have discussed, the President of the United States under the Constitution as chief diplomat and commander-in-chief has been held to have absolutely unquestionable authority as to what he declares.
All right, this is just babble. We don't need to,
Alex, it was my understanding you were going to have my Venmo handle at the bottom of the screen if I said this.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. Yes, your Venmo cleared. I would like everybody else to know mine in case they want to donate. I mean, why you had to bring him in for that? I don't know why. Because Alex, he said that in the car. He referenced the same kind of theory. So they're workshopping, folks. They're workshopping, folks. They're trying to figure out a way to hold this together. That is pretty weak tea to bring in Judge Joe Brown to say, yeah, no, you're right. They're trying to hold the deep state accountable this way by holding the files over them. So now the blackmailed becomes the blackmailer. Now I'm using this as leverage against you to build Alligator Alcatraz.
Yeah.
Ha ha. Didn't see that one coming. Did you? But it's still wrong. We don't endorse it because ultimately you're concealing the files and children were harmed, and we can't condone that, right? We can't endorse this. But what we could say is that this is a misguided strategy to conquer the deep state in this roundabout way. I mean, seriously, who the fuck watches this anymore? And Thomas Massey just tweeted out this. I have an excuse. This didn't come on the air. This didn't come across the wire until just now. But Thomas Massey tweets out, grifters running out of things to grift on. See? So he's wise. He's wise. He sees
true.
What's going on. They're running out of things. Well, yeah, everything's falling apart one by one. Ukraine, Israel, even the deportations to an extent. Measles. Yeah, right. Yeah, measles. Hey, at least we brought measles back. That's the silver lining. That's the best thing that Trump has done so far is bring measles.
Turns out your kids having measles is not as much fun as advertised.
Yeah, exactly. That's the silver lining. Yeah, no, I mean, wow, man, it's true. They're running out of shit. This was a big one. Wow.
Please clap.